Peace, everyone. Hopefully, you're all doing well. Move this out of the way. Okay, let me know how the sound is sounding, and find time to do it. Seeing that this is the last live for a while, we're gonna be finishing up composition today, and willfully, you all can see and hear me. I have two different devices that are hooked up to StreamYard right now. And one of them is because I'm going to be showing you some stuff on this screen. And the other is because I am going to be um, doing some more live painting, over the shoulder painting like I did previously. But okay, I see a one in the chat. So looking good so far. I'm looking at the other screen and it's looking a little, let me move my hand up and down. Yeah, that one's looking a little sketchy in terms of how smooth it's moving. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, um, we're on the seventh element, I should say, art element. So we went through line, we went through shape, we went through form, we went through value, we went through color, we went through texture, and now we're going through space. And what all of these have in common is that they rely on one another, right? It's difficult to have a line without shape. I've said that before. And colors rely heavily on value. And I'm going to attempt to um, point out, I should say, all the elements when they show up. Typically, what I used to do before this session or before this series is piece up. And what I typically do before the series was just focus primarily on line. I would say line, shape, value, color, form, but I would always neglect texture and space. I pay attention to space to some degree, but I would always neglect those two because I didn't understand them. And I have a little bit of a better understanding now. So I'm going to attempt to compose a painting, and I'm going to be doing a blocking, what's known as a blocking. You may typically hear this phrase used if you're used to theater as well. And blocking in is just making the initial composition or arranging how everything, like each element of a piece, is going to take up space. And I'm going to arrange those pieces in the space. And I'm going to be working from two references, right? Um, Before we get into the references, though, which is still being uploaded, I wanted to show a couple of examples of compositions, and I'm going to use some images or some stills from one of my favorite films, which is anime films from Studio Ghibli or Ghibli, however you pronounce it, which is Princess Mononoke, right? I really like the idea of taking sometimes even real world places and changing it up to where it looks like a fantasy. And that's typically what you want to do when you're dealing with composition or composing a piece. You want to take, and this is what I was going to, where's my notes? So I don't butcher his name. I was watching a video series done by an artist named William A. Schneider, right? And he was explaining composition in a couple of categories. One of them was visual concept. So, for example, you're simplifying it to uh, its simplest concept, right? You're breaking it down to its simplest concept, as opposed to saying, he used a funny example, but this is to symbolize the oppression of the artist in the modern age. It's like, nah, it's one light shape and two dark shapes, right? One light shape in between two dark shapes, or girl sitting, or one of the paintings he showed was baking bread. Something very simple. But another aspect of it is, although it's simple, you can add a narrative element to it. Like you probably experienced this before with a movie you may be watching. You may have been following this character for like 3 hours. No, not 3 hours, but like let's say 30 minutes, half an hour. And their life is like maybe 3 hours or maybe even 3 days. But they come home in one particular scene and they take off their coat and they pour a bowl of cornflakes and pour the milk over it and they start eating the cornflakes and they just sit back in the chair. And in and of itself, like eating cornflakes is boring. Why would I want to see that? But if you add the context to this person was just framed for being a drug dealer and they had to, go through this whole crazy conspiracy with the FBI, and they got caught up while they were on their way to work, and every time they tried to call in sick, someone would start shooting and they would have to get off the phone. And they finally the people who are actually I'm making this up as I go along. The people who are actually guilty, they were finally caught, and you finally got your name cleared, and the boss realizes that you weren't lying or trying to get up going to work, but you actually did need that time off. You got shot, you watched somebody die, and everything was finally resolved, and you just came home, took your coat off, you sat down, and you just ate a bowl of cornflakes because that's the only thing you can use to calm yourself down after this harrowing experience, right? That has more weight to it than just seeing someone sitting down eating cornflakes. Can you convey that in an image by the way that you compose it? And you don't necessarily have to tell the entire story. Sometimes you can just tease it or hint at it. Um, and maybe people can walk past your piece in the gallery like, wow, he looked like he had a long day. That could be the title of it, rough day. You know, um, but adding a narrative element to your composition can make it a powerful compositional tool. And again, you only need to hint to the story, even if it's a mythology, right? You can have Hercules talking to his wife Megara before he leaves, or before he's like driven mad and convinced to kill his slay his wife and Jack. Him actually having happy moments before that. That can have a weight to it. It's like, oh man, he doesn't even know. you know. Another thing is, of course, placement of your elements, like I was saying earlier, and how you're going to balance off everything. So I'm going to show these images just, to quickly go over them. And let's see. So this one is, if it pops up, is it going to pop up? Let me know if you can see it, by the way. Oh, there we go. I think you can see it. Yeah, so of course this one is San, the character who's sitting on top of the wolves. There's one of the main characters, San, and her two wolf companions, and the main character, Prince Ashitaka, and his red elk, which he rides on, named Yakub. And in this scene, you have these two people who are they got a thing for each other, but they can't stay together in a sense. So they both have to go their separate ways. The way that this scene is composed is you have the mountainous region is very open air, and you have these two characters looking at each other, but she's already mounted on top of basically her mode of transportation, and they are all faced away from um, the other characters. On the far right, you see one wolf is out already off the screen because he knows they're leaving. The wolf that she's sitting on is waiting for her cue to leave, but she's looking back at him, right? Symbolizing that she's going in a different direction, but she wants to stay. He's standing there closer to her than he is to his mount. And his mount, you can see that it's small. It's almost like a continuous overlap from right to left. like one wolf overlaps the next one, and he overlaps, like he's hiding the wolf's tail a little bit. But the elk is completely cut off from everyone because he's meant to go in the opposite direction. So he has no connection with anything except for, his master, and he's waiting, like, let's go. Is it time to leave yet? So you can see a relationship between all of these different elements. Wait for it. There we go. So here we have another scene. This is where, and I'm just going over it briefly, but you can see one wolf is in the background again. The other is closer to her and standing over her, and she's sort of crouched down with a knife in her hand. And anyone who knows the story knows that this is where she's plotting to assassinate someone, or at least she was, but her assassination attempt was sort of thwarted. And she's kind of defeated and trying to figure out what she should do next. I like this scene as well. Whoops. There we go. I like this image as well when it pops up because it shows that this is these places are based on actual scenery in nature. And sort of like what I was saying earlier, you're taking these natural settings and you're infusing context to them, right? And it's not just you making a painting of it, but you're breathing so much life into this area to the point that you don't even realize this is an actual place, and you can see even the sense of scale there. When we were dealing with space and we were talking about scale, look at how small a human is to that wolf, because this wolf is which we would call an Elohim or God, or a kami, as it would say in Japanese. And this is another close-up of the same scene. And you can see that he's having a discussion with this god about the future of San on the main character. And then in this scene, you have they're in the heart of the forest, and you have these characters or these villagers he's bringing to this space because it has healing properties. So you have the elk, you have the guy with the broken arm sitting on top, and then you have Ashitaka, who's almost directly in the center of the screen, but he's just slightly to the left. And that adds a little bit more of depth and balance. That large tree also helps to balance off the composition, right? And yeah, so those are some compositional elements. Thank you, Saftanaya. Thank you for letting me know what you can see. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attempt to lock in this image. And I won't be showing the entire thing on screen live, but I will be doing like a time lapse of the completed image. But let's see. I guess I could show you guys the reference photos. Uh-oh. I don't think they loaded. Nope, it didn't load. Let's try this again. Okay, so while those are loading, I just want to talk briefly about what I'm attempting to do while they're loading. I have two images, right? One of them is a female figure, and the other is a sort of a forest scene, similar to this one. And I wanted to capture that same sense of wonderment, peace, Arvanites. I wanted to capture that same sense of wonderment. You can see that the lighting is very crisp. It's not too dark. It has a lot of dark areas, but it also has a lot of light areas, and they sort of balance each other out pretty well. So I also wanted to attempt to do that. And yeah, man, I'll see how well I can do it, considering that Wi-Fi is considerably weaker tonight. So I can't show you guys the reference photos, and I'm not sure how clearly this camera is going to be working on this other end. So I'm kind of working with some technical difficulties. But if push comes to shove, if the Wi-Fi doesn't hold out, like I said, I'll have a time lapse of the entire process anyway. So, okay, they loaded up. This would be the image of the forest that I'm going to be utilizing. You can see that there's a lot of dark areas, right? There's some dark areas in the middle. There's some in the right and left corner. And then there's some splashes of light in the center that are um, that are peppered in with a couple more dots, right? And I am going to, I do this all the time in terms of utilizing different um, reference photos and sort of mashing them together, taking whatever elements I need from each reference photo and sort of mashing them together. And this would be the image of the female that I'm going to be adding in. I may take creative license with this figure in terms of whether or not I add a torso or a lower body, or if I would just bring her close enough to the fore inside of this dark forest, right? So that is what I'm going to be attempting to do, and it seems like I may not be able to do it because of the way that my Wi-Fi is set up this evening. You know, I got to check it because what else are you going to do? I'm going to try one more time. And if this does not work, then I will simply end the live and you guys will be able to watch in the back end. It'll probably be the same link, but you guys will be able to watch in the back end and see how it works. Easy, make sure you up, up. Okay, we got cooking with fire. Yeah, you make sure you use good luck. Yeah, stay right there. Alright, so let me just position this camera properly and we can start. That's kind of good. Yeah, it's kind of good. Okay, let me know if you all can hear me. And if there's an echo. Okay, how's that sound? Might be a little better. Let's check and see if this is dry. I just painted this before we start. And I am primarily going to be using the colors black and white for this sort of blocking. Um, where are my paint supplies? For this sort of blocking phase of the painting. Oh, I know where to put them. This is so unprofessional. Yeah, I'm primarily going to be using black and white. So let me get the colors mixed up. And there you go. I'll just be using a very dark gray. So, and look, and their legs move around. Let's see if I can get the camera clear up. Nope. No. Okay. So I got my reference, and I'm gonna have to start like way, hope you all can see, like way in the background, right? So with that reference that I showed earlier, we have lots of dark spots, right, and light spots. I remember that's the visual concept, right? I have very shaded forest with low lighting. I have dark spots on the left over here. I have dark spots on the right over here. I have dark spots in the center, some in the background, and then I have a couple of light spots peppered in. And I'm going to attempt to separate light from dark. Right? That's the first thing I need to do. Separate my light colors from my dark colors. The darkest will always be in the front, and lightest, uh, the lightest lights are going to be in the background where you have some diffuse lights. Okay, this is something that I'm picking to do back. Okay, this is what we'll do. Okay, thanks for the hands up. On radio, I'll delete this. Okay, now that one of these is less the studio, can you still hear the this time and feedback on the radio? Alright, so I'm just gonna go ahead and hit, and this gray is gonna be, from we know with the color studio, this is gonna dry much darker um, once once it dries. The blacker pigments, the black pigments are gonna show up, right? And that's gonna make it much darker. So I'm just adding in simple shapes.
and I can always go back and use where did my go? Where is my stuff? There we go. See if I can subtract this. Correct the shape a little bit. That's better. Okay, basic shape of those trees in the foreground, right? Then here's some trees right through there. Center power here. Yeah, that's that tree. I'll just go over this piece here. Remember to draw through. And what I'm doing here is just adding lines, right? But it's not just lines, it's also line and body. I get to see that the horizon line is about here. Maybe so it's about here. And then some other trees. Some happy little trees. Barbara upstairs. Oh, I was supposed to check to see if the sound was in there. Are you guys in the feedback? I can't really check. Let me see if I can do this. Never lean back and check. I don't see any complaints in the chat, so keep going. I'll go with painting the trees for now. Okay, so finish with. Yeah, I don't want to make these trunks too thick, or else they're gonna feel like they're coming forward. And I'm gonna not trim there. There. All of these are going to look like indistinguishable clumps of body until I start to add some variation. Slightly different variation to this one. So it's not as easy to see. Yeah. It's actually going in the same direction. Just like that. Browns from more covered. And you can't see much of it up there because there's like I don't want to say count, but there's some leaves in the food that's going to be covering the top part of that. So I don't need to worry about that too much. Right. Also, definitely the space over there for that opening, so I'm going to close this off. Right. And I'll fix that shape here. Put it to that. And so it's coming out.
Wickedness in the Babylonian system. I tell you, it's gonna be so beautiful. Yeah.
I'll actually,
Check it out.
if you could, can you share these two images inside of the, I don't know if it's possible, inside of the description, just in case anyone wants to paint them off, they want to go and find them. Is that possible? Oh, you missed the introduction. Oh, I said that just in time. Then. You can probably see that I have the image up on the computer in the background. But what I'm doing is I'm just taking you all through a blocking in process for painting. And in order to do that, you need your reference photo and um, the basic shapes and values, right? So all I'm doing is putting in the basic shapes and values, and I'm going to be combining this image of like a very dimly lit forest with an image of a figure, a model, and I'm going to be placing her inside of this forest. Right, and they're going to be reviewing a little bit of composition along with that as well. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I don't think it needs too much. Um, but like I had asked Sister Yamira, you can put a thumbs up in the chat if you are able to do it, to put a link to the actual reference photos that I'm utilizing. They'll upload it inside of StreamYard if you don't have them in your chat. I know my Wi-Fi is kind of long. So I can okay. Okay. I'm gonna get back to you. So yeah, I have the basics of the trees mapped out. I don't have any leaves or anything. That would take too long to map out. But if you have those trees with the leaves, I'm just going to add some values in for the forest floor. And there's some dark spaces down here. Some more. I'm gonna draw basic shape and I'm gonna draw basic shape some shadows, which are like they look like dead tree branches strewn all over the place. But I'm still adding those shadowy blocks. I'm focusing more on the shape, right? Shapes. Focusing on the shapes of these dead branches. And they're here in two different distances from the foreground. So I'm also taking that into account. And then we have, we have these leaves over here, which I kind of don't want to draw, but I want to draw them anyway. There's these leaves over here on this dark space to kind of overlap the top side of the foreground. I'm going to lightly brush them in here. I'm not even going to add more to the brush. I'm just going to suggest the shape of them. And so having sort of overlap everything over to the top of the screen. This is very dark. And it has some light elements. I'll add the light back in. Dark areas up here. Dark areas up here. And of course, these areas are probably like that. And I can add some more darkness. These are the foregrounds that are going to be actually the darkest values that we get. All of these objects in the foreground. So, the tricky part would be just separating these dark elements from one another. If we can show it, I don't have even though I don't have like a clear value system in place. Still tell each shape apart. This shape is much smaller than I do. And I'm again being very loose because at this stage you just saying you stand over there, you stand over there, you stand over there. I'm not telling anyone what to do yet. It's standing here for There's also other that I did not draw before because I want to use that shape and migrate. Also overlap that wrong. This shape over here. This shape over here. This dark shape there. More of this stuff. So far, little shapes and values. Shapes, values, and right? I haven't gotten into any forms yet. So this is our first, I say our because they're not really particularly no order. In terms of importance, but just in terms of the order in which I typically see them. You typically see line first and then it ends in space. Right. So I'm gonna go with that same order, not necessarily the same hierarchy of importance, but with the same order of sequencing. I guess that's the good, I guess that's the word for it. Right. So after we get our lines and our shapes and our values, you can't have lines and shapes without values. But the value is typically monochromatic. And I'm just refining these shapes a little bit more. Shoot, I got a squint. Is this thing in front of that tree? Jeez. Oh, well, again. So this shape is actually more like so. Come straight down. This tree is still in front of the big rocks fall like that. And you may not be able to see from the distance based on where the camera's positioned, but I'm also using the direction of the brush strokes to let me know what is overlapping what. So because I'm brushing in this direction and I'm going over this shape, I can see that this is overlapping. This is in front of this shape. And I can see that because I cut this diagonal brush stroke direction with this horizontal, vertical line, excuse me, I know that this is in front of this shit. It's kind of weird when you're looking at it from a distance, but that's how I'm telling you the plot, like what is in front of what. That doesn't call it that far. This is more vertical. Yeah, that's what that's it. I can separate those little. So that's sort of, yeah, that's sort of the composition. Right? And that's just blocking in for the forest. And it's super simple. Oh, you're welcome. Here you go. And, oh, um, I see Sister Nina put it in the top right screen when I'm painting. Willfully, that's clear for everyone to see. And if you wanted to follow along, it's in the chat as well. And then on the chat, the video description. I don't want to do anything with this one here. I guess it can't work. Let's see if it's send it to them differently. See if that works. Okay, so now that I have this done, right, with blocking, I have the option to block in my figure now, or I can do the entire background and then add the figure later, right? But I do need to determine exactly where I want this figure to sit. And I definitely want her more on the left side because of the direction that she's facing. She's looking to the right and up. So it would even be cool if I have something that I create from imagination dangling up there so that you can look at it. Or I can just have the lighting on her face look like she's looking through the leaves up through the canopy of the forest. I think we're going to go with the second one. But these are the types of decisions you can make once you start putting in the more concrete stuff, right? Like you always just start with the concrete and then you can move into the abstract later. It's no different here. Even though you think all of this is abstract, it's really hard. Um, as we went over these elements, there's still structure to it, and we're going to stick to the structure and then we can sort of invent. Um, as we go along, I'm going to have to mix it up. So, I'm not going to have her just yet though, but I'm thinking of having her for this section. And I guess I could say it now just for the purpose of recording it. There was a, where are my notes again? There was a type of, I don't know who was there for the composition, the last composition episode, where I went over the rule of thirds, like you would divide the canvas into thirds, vertical thirds and horizontal thirds, and where they sort of intersect, you could decide, okay, I want to put something, a focal point here, or a focal point here, something here, or something here. But it doesn't, like, that's cool when you're doing photography, or if you're able to move around a three-dimensional space and sort of use it as a guide. If you're looking at a flat surface, it even works on that as well. There was something else that he described and called it the armature of the rectangle. right? And it seems super mathematical. But from what I can remember, you want to start from, you want to divide it, your image like diagonally, right? I'm not, I don't want to do it because I don't want to mess up what I did here. But you want to divide it diagonally, and then you start from the center, and you connect that center to one of those diagonal points, right? So I would be, if you can follow along, there's a line here, and from, but there's also a line here, right? And so this center to this corner, there would be another intersecting line. And where those points meet, that would be a place where I can put it. And I can do the same thing over here. And, the focal point would be in this direction over here. And I don't know if you all can see this, but um, this makes it a little easier. So you can see that you have your diagonal lines, right? And that's your cross section. And then from the center, you can draw a diagonal line to the corner. I don't know the science behind it, so don't ask. But I just thought it was interesting when he overlaid like this image, and you don't have to draw it out completely, right? Because you're going from center to corner, center to corner, center to center, center to center. And if you go back and pause it and try to draw it out based on what I just said, those simple lines, like from corner to corner, from corner to corner, center to corner, center to corner, center to center, center to center, right? If you go and draw over any type of rectangle with those instructions, you would get something that looks sort of like this. You don't necessarily need to do it ad nauseum, but I just put little circles over those um, those focal points. And if you can sort of overlay this on top of the, I can't do it on top of the image that's in the top right corner of the screen, but if you try to imagine this sort of rectangle right here, and then this circle right here, this point of intersection, that's kind of where I want her face to be. You know, it feels the most natural because she's looking up towards this diagonal here. She's not directly in the center. She's not too far off to the corner. So this is sort of the area that I'm thinking of placing her, right? So it would be like in that area, almost where that rock is, So it's going to be some tricky maneuvering. But I'm just saying that to say these are the type of decisions that you have to make as well when you're composing an image. Um, where you want something to be and how it's going to be, especially for something that's not actually there. She's not in this picture. I'm putting her in the picture. And how can I put her in this picture in a way that she's still occupying space, right? And even the lighting on her face still has to make sense based on the lighting in the background. But all of those elements that we covered over the past few months, all of them help to make those decisions. And the more we practice them, the more ingrained those images or those concepts, excuse me, are going to be inside of our mind when we're making decisions. Um, and it'll make it easier and almost more intuitive to create an image. And you'll even find yourself inventing things out of the blue. Like I was saying, I have to invent light on her face. I can't use the light that's in her reference photo, or else it's going to look unnatural. But if I tweak the light on her face to make it look um, consistent with the background that I'm creating, then it's going to really, it's going to look like she's supposed to be there, which is what I want, because I don't want that to distract from the entire mood of the painting that I'm going to create. I want you to think about, I don't want you to think at all when you see it. I want you to feel something. So if that's my goal when I'm creating this piece, I have to make this thing look as natural as possible, right? And in movies, they would call it the suspension of disbelief, meaning I'm not going to sit here and watch SpongeBob like, hey, sponges can't talk. I don't, I don't need to be distracted with that. We've already established that this is a fictional universe where there's a sponge who's yellow and annoying and wears pants, okay, which are square. I don't even need to know why there's a perfectly symmetrical sponge in the ocean. I don't need that distracting me. All I know is these jokes are funny, and I need to not think right now. You know, they even hide the fact that there's a lot of marine biology info because the writer of that show's a marine biologist. So, what kind of information can I sneak past you and get you to learn or feel or wrestle with without you knowing what's going on? You know, sort of a trickster aspect to painting and creating, right? And it takes a lot of patience to make sure that everything is consistent so that when people look at it, nothing is jarring, right? And of course, you hear me talking a lot, which means we're at the end of our session. But I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna continue this blocking, and I'm gonna continue um, creating this piece. The images that I'm using as references, they're gonna be in the description below. They are all royalty free, meaning I'm not gonna get sued. They're free to use. So anyone, whoever finds this video or whoever's watching, you can download them and see what you come up with. You know, it doesn't have to look exactly like the image. You may do what I do oftentimes, which is you hit a snag, something doesn't feel right, and you just like, I don't care, delete this. You know, it's only a reference photo, and no one's gonna ask me what I looked at to draw this. So I can leave stuff out or add stuff in. You know, willfully, this was helpful in terms of demonstration. I much rather these over the shoulder sorts of sessions than the sessions that are on the computer. I'm going to continue with this piece, and since this is the last video in the series, I'm not going to say I'll see you next strong because there won't be a session next strong. What you'll see more of coming maybe closer to the end of the year or the beginning of next year is more short form content of me just recording the shoulder stuff and maybe doing a voiceover, right? It's time to, you know, it's around that season of switching up. We just had equinox, and we did our equinox fast, which we do as a community in our loop, which is a nice reset, and it helps to recalibrate what kind of direction we're going in. And yeah, I'm looking forward to doing more stuff, but a little differently, right? So peace, everyone. Enjoy your evening. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching this video. For anyone coming across this in the future, you are